Let me start out by saying that we're trying to quantify psychology here, which can be tough, but I think we're making progress. Gallup has been looking at this idea of attachment in a lot of different settings. It started actually in the business setting, which many of you folks in the room probably won't be surprised to learn that Gallup discovered that an employee feeling psychologically connected, emotionally attached to their jobs actually led to greater productivity of that employee. So Gallup said, well, what if we expanded this notion and looked at the community? Is there some benefit to having people attracted, attached, engaged, emotionally invested in where they live? So they came up with this idea of community attachment, and they started studying it. So what I present to you tonight is not Gallup's first time at the circus trying to figure all this out. We are really relying on the work that they have done before this point that have gotten us to really the most sophisticated measurement model that we have to date, which is what I'll be presenting you tonight. So Gallup has looked at this idea of attachment and said it really comes down to these two ideas. There's this loyalty to community, having a positive outlook, that this community is going to be better in 5 years. I'm satisfied living here, and I would recommend it to others. And then there's this passion idea. I feel proud to live here. It is the perfect place for me. And you usually have that fist banging when they say it. We're really tapping into that emotional connection. And that would be great. We could stay in the circle and live in the circle, but I'm also an interventionist, and I like data that we have a use for. And if we said, well, we kind of need to work on the pride and we need to work on recommending it to others, that's kind of hard to intervene on. So what Gallup wanted to do is try to figure out, well, what are the things in the community that are intervenable that seems to drive that loyalty and passion for place? So we're taking ideas that are in people's heads and very hard to do anything about, and really looking at, well, what are the things in the community that's really seeming to drive those feelings? And so Gallup developed and tested all of these drivers that you see here before you. And usually I don't go through each of them because there's so many, and I stick to the ones that matter most for this community. But I will give you a very brief intro into each of these ideas, knowing that we're going to spend more time on the ones that matter here. And that's the idea. In each community, you find that there are different things that matter to driving that attachment to place. And that's why the Gallup also calls those levers. It's not as simple as you pull a lever and these things happen, but it is true that the model shows that if you know what the levers are in a community that drives loyalty and passion for place, if you work on those things and you understand how you're doing on those things, you have a better shot at really making a difference in these intangible ideas of attachment. So openness, welcoming to different groups. Social capital is the personal networks people have in the community. Emotional wellness has to do with how people feel in their own skin in your community, how stressed they feel, how respected they feel in your community, those sorts of things. Civic involvement is the traditional civic engagement measures of voting, volunteering, attending meetings, working with neighbors to get stuff done in the community. And then there's a whole series of community offerings, which includes basic services, the community infrastructure, highways, housing, and health care. Leadership, elected officials, rating of elected officials, both the elected folks and the folks that people assume as leaders in the community. The education system, the perception of K through 12 and local colleges and universities. Safety, perceptions of crime, how safe you feel walking 1 mile from your house. Social offerings is really that entertainment infrastructure, as well as citizen caring, residents caring about each other, and we'll talk a little bit more about that today. Hello. And then aesthetics, which really has to do with the beauty of a place. I know that's not mine. Okay, there we go. So the beauty of a place, and then the economy. And specifically when we talk about the economy, we're talking about perceptions of the local economy, hiring momentums, the availability of jobs, things like that.